What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Next Level Teaching. I'm your host, Jeremy Anderson, here with my super dope co-hostess with the mostest, Miss Tori Rodriguez, a.k.a. T-Rod. What's up?
What's up, Jay?
How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good. Actually, we were just talking about that whole T-Rod thing.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I was at a Braves game, and someone said something about A-Rod, and I was like, hey, that's where my nickname came from.
I'm T-Rod. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
me.
Now
Everyone
we need
was
some
like,
of that A-Rod money.
Oh, yeah.
Holla at your boy. Yeah, no doubt.
You know.
Yeah, well, we ain't got that A-Rod money, but we do have a special guest today.
Yes, we do. I'm super excited. We have Ramona Slaughter, who is amazing. She's super fun and
super giddy.
Yeah,
she's got the giggles.
I do have the giggles
Comes
today.
from a crazy family.
I do come from a crazy family.
Jay, you don't know this. She comes from a clown family.
I was raised by
really?
clowns. True story.
They were silly?
No,
you mean
they were
like-
like legit
circus.
clowns, like
Circus.
Oh, I need to hear about this. Okay. This is interesting.
So it was my mom and my dad, and then my mom's sister and her husband.
Okay.
And they were called the Glory Bound Clowns.
Wow.
So they did like kids' crusades at churches and events at, like, went to clown school, graduated, registered their faces.
Wow.
Like legit clowns. So
Wow.
Yes.
it's kind of where it
Interesting.
comes from. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a
Okay.
normal childhood at all.
Full
But
of
well
jokes.
adjusted.
Right.
Well
right.
adjusted.
That's next level. Wow.
I know, right? Right.
So how did you end up in becoming an educator as opposed to in Ringling Brothers?
So
You know
my
what I'm
mom's
saying?
day job was in a severe autistic class
Okay,
in the elementary school that I actually went to. So I grew up in a special education classroom my whole life.
Right.
And so watching my mom and the teacher that she worked with, it was the one thing that was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. Watching the love and the care that they gave these kids, because sending your kids, I didn't realize it until I was a mom, sending your kids to school is so hard. Like nobody's going to love your kid like you love your kid.
Right.
So watching my mom and the teacher she worked with that loved these kids like they were their babies. And I know, because like, I was like, ooh, that's straight up what my mom does to me. Or like, that's how my mom...
Right.
Watching that, I was like, I can be that for somebody else. And that's what I want to do. I want to be that for kids who may not get that at home or whatever. So that's where my love for teaching came, was from my mom and the teacher she worked with.
Sounds like she answered the call.
Yeah.
Yep.
Truly. Ramona is one of those that I think
Called in a little crazy.
definitely a little crazy as well, for sure. Definitely.
I love it.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about your education journey, because I know you, but I know Jeremy doesn't know your full education journey, but I also don't know. So I guess that's kind of what got you there.
That's what got me there. So my first job in education was actually at the elementary school with my principal I had in 5th grade.
Okay.
She took a gamble, and it just kind of went from there. I worked one-on-one with a kid, and we partnered with a group. And we worked with this one kid one-on-one, and I worked there for 2 years, and then I slid into one of our autistic classes, our autistic program classes, fell in love with those babies. They were the nonverbal, low cognitive, but, they just get in your heart and steal it. And so I was hooked. Like that, you couldn't get me out of that. And so was in the elementary school for several years, got pregnant with my 3rd kiddo, and stayed home for a little bit with her, and then missed it so much. Missed being in the classroom, missed being with kids. Not that I don't love my own kids, but it's just different.
Yeah.
So then applied at the middle school, and I came highly recommended by the county's behavioral specialist, and they were like, oh, okay, she might know what she's doing. So jumped on board at the middle school, and so pairing since 2009, and then 3 years ago switched over into ISS, which is in-school suspension. And then now I'm kind of shifting into the special education clerk world, so I get to keep dabbing my toes in the special education world, but also still supporting our new ISS coordinator.
Right.
So that's my education journey.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, for sure. How did you kind of navigate the pandemic space?
So that was tough. So when COVID hit, and we went home for the long weekend on that March 13th or whatever, all of us totally expected, like, oh, we're going to be back. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
And then we weren't back.
Right.
And then they called the support staff, so like the paras and the clerks, they called us back in to kind of wrap up the year and do some things.
Girl, you were cleaning out lockers.
We did. We cleaned out. Oh my Lord! And can we just say, middle school lockers are not
Gross.
what you want to spend your day cleaning out. Like I thought my kids' rooms lockers had nothing on my kids' rooms, so we kind of cleaned up and did all of the different close out the school year things that we would normally do as a whole staff, but it was just like
a few of
15, 20 of us.
And this was like April, May.
Put all the kids'
right
belongings.
away.
Yeah, like jump right back into it. Put all kids' belongings in bags, coordinated like the pickups for their stuff. And so then the year ended, and when we learned that we were coming back on campus, the county suggested or required, I guess, that you had what they called a health response team. And so it was a team of people, including like an administrator, our clinic worker, and some other support people to do like the contact tracing, the contacting the parents, if
walking into teachers' classrooms
and measuring desks and
making sure if we were close contact or not.
And delivering the bad news of you've unfortunately you've got to go home and you've got to quarantine. And going over that time and time again. So so I was part of that. That was the toughest, I think, thing.
Yeah.
It was truly one of the hardest things that I've done in education, because parents don't want to hear that their kid has to come home because they think that we're not keeping kids safe. And every teacher in that building was trying so hard to do everything that they could to keep our kids safe and to keep our kids distanced and to keep our kids healthy and well and cleaning. And I mean, it was one of the most exhausting times to be there and to walk in. And we joked often that I was like, we were the bearer of bad news. Teachers would see us coming. They were like, oh no, please don't come to our room.
Yeah.
Please don't come to our room.
We would get the emails and I was like, oh, here we go.
Right. And I wanted to talk about that because, just kind of give some encouragement to the educators listening. I imagine a lot of them are like, it's a new year. I don't want to relive the pandemic. But I think there's a lot that we can learn from that space. So what were some areas in which you had to grow internally to say, you know what, I've got to get through this? I don't know if there was a regimen or if you had some things in place to make sure that you were in a good place.
So
you got close to the Lord, right?
We did. Me and the Lord spent a lot of time together.
There we go. Yeah.
In the office, everywhere. But the biggest thing was I had to take a second and just remember, like, this is a scary time for people, and give the grace to people because I needed grace as well. Because it was stressful, it was hard, and it was really a time where I just had to learn, you know what? I want grace from everybody else. I've got to give it to others. So when you need your 5 minutes to tell me that I'm the worst human being because I came into your classroom and put out 12 of your kids, that's okay.
Right.
That's what you needed in that moment, and I'd rather be the person to take that than you say it to somebody else. So I'll take that on.
You were okay with being the punching bag.
They needed it. They needed it.
So I imagine, I want to just kind of parallel something. Tori, I imagine there are educators that, like yourself, that come across students with behavior issues, and they're like, okay, your last...
You literally was also a punching bag like that, literally as a para.
Right, like you're angry, you're frustrated, you're taking it out on me, but you didn't take it personal. And so I imagine that same mindset you had when it came to working with the kids. Dealing with the parents, dealing with the teachers, they were upset. They looking at you like the Grim Reaper. You're like, I'm just doing my job. But if you want to be mad at somebody, that's fine. You can be mad at me, and it's not going to take me. I'm not going to take it personal.
Right. My go-to phrase was, "I totally understand, and I wish I could change it for you." And I think I said that more times than I can count.
Yeah.
Constantly, I totally understand, and I wish I could change this for you. During that time, it got exceptionally hard in January. My dad had health issues, for months. And in January, he went into the hospital and was diagnosed with COVID. He had lung issues, had lung issues. And so it was around the 8th that they went ahead and put him in COVID ICU, and they went ahead and put him on a vent. And, progress was kind of this. So it was an emotional roller coaster every day. So dealing with my dad being in the hospital and knowing what he was going through to having to call parents and tell them, your kid's at contact, having to balance that was tough. And then on the 18th, we had to make the decision to remove his life support and say our goodbyes to him. I'm so thankful we got to say our goodbyes to him. I'm so thankful that I know that he was made whole and his lungs were functioning better. It still hurt. So then I can say that I work with the best staff who was so understanding and so gracious and so kind. And in the 2 weeks that kind of I was here and there and not fully all focused, they were phenomenal, did everything they could to protect me from making those calls. But when I went back, I told the assistant principal, I was like, don't not give me this. I understand it differently now. And I want to have these conversations with parents and I want to have these conversations with our staff members. And because we were questioned often, I think that's fair to say, we were questioned often, like, are you really doing what you have to do? Are you really keeping the kids safe? I don't think you're looking at this when you should be looking at this. And so to be able to go, hold on, I want you to take a breath and realize what I've just gone through. Of all people on this team, I'm looking at it with a different set of eyes. I will look at this to protect each and every person in all of these classrooms. So I will be more cautious. This kid could be 6 feet 2 inches away, but I just don't feel comfortable. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put you out to quarantine. Let's just watch you. So that was one of those, that was probably the most trying time for me for this past year, was that January, February time where I just needed a lot of grace and understanding. And but it did change my perspective on dealing with these kids. And there were parents too that I'm like, I know this is scary for you. And I know that you've done everything. We did it because I worked in a school. When I would go to my parents' house, because they kept my littlest one, I'm changing in their garage before I go inside because I'm in a school. I don't, So I can tell these parents, I know where you're coming from. I know how scary it is. I'm in your shoes. I've got kids in the same building. I understand. I think that was when I grew the most, was being able to go, goodness gracious, this is real. I have to check some things at the door to be able to just kind of push. And then there were days that I would get through it and close my door and fall apart. Like my blinds would be closed and everybody knew, don't go in her office.
And that's the part oftentimes people don't see. Because as you're sitting here talking, you're saying how, you had to deal with your father passing. And again, our deepest condolences.
Thank you.
And then you still had to show up and do your job and still had to be the one to let the parents and the students and the teachers know, like, still be the punching bag. But you allow for that to, like, strengthen you and prepare you to do your job even more effectively and efficiently, because you can be not sympathetic but empathetic, and it's coming from a different place. But then you still are human. You still had to go in the office and close your blinds and just have a time to break down and fall out and cry. I've been giving Tori her roses all last year during the pandemic, because I literally saw her at our house, teaching some kids virtually,
when I was quarantined, remember? How many times did I stay home?
She's literally.
Ramona was like, again, here we go. Okay. Right. Just in case, I know.
Tori,
and then she hit us, hey, y'all. Guess who got a quarantine? But I'm seeing her do the kids virtually, but then also check the kids and teach them in the classroom. Like, I'm seeing her do both at the same time. But then she still had those times when she had to cry. She still had the times when she needed to meet with her counselor. That's the part a lot of times people don't see.
Everybody just thinks that it's this. You switch it on and off, and we do. Don't get me wrong. We do switch it on and off. But there are those times that you just can't. When you're in the classroom, when you're in your office, you just can't. And that's okay. And I wish more people understood that's okay. And actually, what I've learned is when the kids see that we can't just switch it on and off, when they see that realness, it changes the dynamic in the classroom. It changes your relationship with them. They no longer see you as
a robot,
or let me just regurgitate this information to you. They see you as a person. And those kids need that more than anything these days. So I think that's a big thing for us, is that we were all just able to not sit and be where they could see us go, we're frustrated with this,
Right.
with the concurrent teaching, where it was like, oh my goodness, we're not okay with this. So I know you're not okay.
Yep.
That was such a huge thing,
Yep.
a huge gain this year, I think.
How long have you been in education for?
Since 2009. So,
What's it, 12 years?
yes.
Okay, you like that math, right?
Yeah.
Just don't hit me with no Pythagoras theorem, you know what I'm saying?
Don't worry, you're safe there.
right. Okay, good. So, was there ever a time besides like during the pandemic where you were like, you know what, I'm out? Like,
When you were
know
the
what I'm
punching
saying?
bag?
So maybe the year I got my thumb broke, that might have been.
Do tell.
Yes.
So
Were you closing one of the lockers a little too hard or something?
No,
No?
I was just working with a kiddo, and there's a thing called 3-step prompting in the special education world. We try not to use it, unless we have to get the kid. And it's just, I'm going to ask you to do something. So I'm going to say, put on your shoe. Mm-hmm. You don't put on your shoe. I'm going to be like, put on your shoe like me, and I'm going to model it for you. So like you're going to see, and I'm going to hope that you're going to do it. And by the third time, I'm going to help you. And so we put on your shoe. So we were doing that with a kiddo who we just needed to comply with a simple direction. Because I've always been taught behaviors trump academics. If you don't have behaviors under control academically, they're not going to get what they need.
Let's pause right
Yeah,
there. Let's
facts.
pause right there. Pause. We will
Facts.
come back to the punching bag
Facts.
story, but that right there is
Behavior
it.
trumps academics.
If you don't have behaviors under control, they cannot get the academic concept. Their brain can't shift to absorb that information because their brain is currently in behavior mode. It is a crazy thing, and that has always kind of been what's led my direction.
So if you can get them to comply, you can get them to comprehend.
So sometimes,
felt
like
that.
if we're just kind of, I'll use one of my own kids.
Yeah.
My little 4-year-old, he struggles sometimes, and so he'll kind of get into a spiral of no, I'm not doing. So I'll switch it. Hey, Bowen, touch your nose. Touch your nose like mommy. You do. Touch your nose and I'll help him. Hey, where's your eyes? Touch your eyes. And we'll go through like 10 different things that are just super easy. By the time we get to that 10th one, hey, bud, your shoes need to be put back up on the shelf. Can you get that done
I'm
for
going
me?
to try that with Jackson.
Whoop, picks it up and puts it away. It is the craziest thing, but
I just got a feeling Jackson would say, no, you touch your nose. I just got a feeling.
But
Because
you
I was
can't
cutting
give-
his hair. I said, Jackson, I'm almost done. He said, no, you are done. I said, okay.
Well, you can't.
I need to try that.
You can't. It just has to be very matter of fact. No, just touch your toe. Touch your toe like me. You do, and then help them, and just go through it. And
Behavior
it just
trumps
academics
every time.
every time.
If you can get them to comply, you'll get them to comprehend.
And I think, Tori, if you look at any class that you've had,
Yep.
if you've had a strong behavior class,
Yep.
academically they've not probably been your highest
Yep.
class, have they?
Yep. That's so true. Even if they are brilliant kids.
Correct.
And it can be my accelerated class that they're brilliant, but you've got 1 or 2 behavior issues that are kind of causing a whole issue in the
Yes.
whole class. And so then that accelerated class then starts to do poorly because of it. Yes. And you have to get that. And it's about what you were talking about earlier with the COVID, like letting them know where you're at. You know, days when I would tell them Miss Rod's anxiety is a little through the roof today.
Right.
They would be like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Let's change us
Right.
to help her.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're getting him to tie his. Did you give him a thumbs up, and that's how you broke your thumb?
No. So what had happened was we are just trying to sit, and we just needed the compliance to get back on track. So it was something simple of write your name.
Right.
Write your name.
Right.
Something every
Right.
middle school kid can do. Write your name like me. And so he was complying for a second. And so I just kind of had my hands on the desk, and there was another desk beside, and he decided he did not want to comply anymore, and he went to shove the desk, and as he did, it caught between the two desks. And so I just moved the one hand, and we kept going. I need you to write your name.
Oh, you're a gangster.
And she really, do you see why I wanted her on? She
you
really
next
is,
level.
though.
We finished out the day.
Because
I'm
the
like,
average teacher would have said, "You mother flipper."
you just tuck it behind, don't let them see you flinching. You just finish, write your name. Write your name.
Ramona, ladies and gentlemen, everybody put your hands together. That's next level.
For
right
real.
there.
So that's, I mean,
Wow.
that's how it got broke. Is it was And when I had to go explain it to the doctor, I'm like, it got caught between two desks.
Nope.
Well,
You got to give us more. No.
it's-
We got to rewind. So this happens. What was going on in your brain? Keep my composure. Don't slap this kid.
No.
Ouch, this really hurts. Like, you got to break this
So
down.
my thumb was throbbing, and I'm like, okay, all right, I can do this. So we get through. And I mean, it was another 15 minutes of like, hey, write your name. Hey, do this. We got back on track. I'm like, I'm just asking you, finish these 2 questions, and we'll be done. You can have a break. I can have a break.
You broke my thumb. Actually, I already got a break, right?
Right, yeah, I got a break, but you'll get a different one. So we get through that, and afterwards, we get everything done. He earned his break. So I kind of look at the teacher in the room. I was like, I need some ice. My thumb is kind of throbbing. So I was like, I think we're good. So it just kept ice on it for the rest of the day.
It's just flopping around.
It just kind of was poofed. And so we went home, and I told my husband, I'm like, I think my thumb's messed up a little bit. He was like, well, do you think it's just sore? I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I'm sure it's just sore. Well, I got it the next morning.
It was purple.
It was gross. And I was like, I think there's more. And he looked at it. He was like, oh, let's just go. Let's just go. And so we walked in, and the doctor she's like, no, you've broke your thumb, sweetheart. We'll take some x-rays. And she goes, yeah, that's broken. How'd you do it again? So I was like, just a desk. It's fine. Like 2 desks. It's not a big deal. My husband
That's
was like,
workers' comp, ma'am.
do you know how hard that is to
No.
go through?
No.
Don't do it. So it just, it was, when they say like you can feel it throbbing, like I never realized like it matches like your pulse rate, and every time it was like, and I was like, oh, like it made me nauseous. It was terrible. But that was the tough year.
So, and then
Wait,
we
was
want
that
you
the
to
year you
stay.
got bit?
No, that was the next year.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you got bit too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, tell us about that real quick, and I'm gonna wrap. We need you to stay for a part 2. So tell us about the bite.
Okay, so when I got bit, it was a kiddo who needed services, and we were following a behavior plan set forth by and this was when I moved to ISS, so not even in a special education classroom. So we were following the behavior plan set forth by the behavioral specialist in our county. And if he didn't comply with directions, we were supposed to transport to a 2-man transport where me and another person or 2 people, just kind of help carry, just supporting under his arms and carry him to a different location. So we were doing that, and we got right outside the door, and he locked onto my arm. And so the gentleman that was transporting with me was like, do we need to stop? I was like, keep walking, keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. And it was...
Once again, gangsta.
It was
What's
not
your last name?
Slaughter.
Okay, Ramona Unstoppable Slaughter. She kept going.
So, well, that, like, you can't. If you can't let them see that their behavior is winning. So I'm like, keep walking, keep walking. Well, we get to the room.
Did he lock on, or was it just a bite? The
No,
teeth said, how
when
sweet Miss Ramona
no,
was.
he locked, like his body was shaking because he was applying so much pressure to my arm.
Wow.
So we got to the room that we are supposed to take him to his cool down space, and the door was locked. So, and nobody had keys on them, so we're standing in the hall. That's exactly how
That's
it
the
looked.
visual I had, like a little pit bull.
That's exactly what it looked like. And by the time like we got him in and where he could calm down, like I had already had a bruise. So I'm trying to like wear long shirts because all the teachers are going, what happened? I'm like, it's fine. It's nothing to see here, friends.
It's fine. It is
No,
not
you're
fine.
different. You're different.
Okay.
Somebody get her a next level teacher.
Well, and I want to talk about one more thing before we transition. The fact that I'm just going to bring this up. Sorry. I don't know if you know how much parapros and clerks make.
Oh, right.
But it is absurd.
Right.
There are other counties in the state of Georgia that their subs make more than the parapros.
Wow.
And that right there says everything to me.
Yeah.
That right there says that you truly are next level, and the fact that you keep going, you keep pushing, despite the fact that you don't, like we talk about as teachers, like academic teachers, we don't get paid what we should be getting paid.
Right.
Oh, no.
Parapros do not get paid anywhere near, because especially this past year when subs were we didn't have enough subs. So
None in the building.
So
None.
if you're the special ed teacher is out, then the parapro became the teacher, and there's no sub. So they're making less than what a sub would make doing a teacher's job.
Wow.
It's not,
It's messed up.
You don't do it for the money. You don't get into being a para or a clerk for the money at all.
Or a teacher. But
Or a
that's,
teacher.
But that's even... Yeah. Wow.
tough.
And so, Shivy, if you're listening, sir, I know that we have talked about the fact that we need that $75,000 minimum wage for teachers, but we have got to work on our support staff as well, because what our support staff does for us, I think, Ramona, you have shown me more than anyone in the past 5 years of working with you, and your heart, you just keep pushing. There were so many times where you would come into my classroom and when we had close contact stuff, and I would just be like, I need to step out real quick because my anxiety was so high. And Ramona would just say, okay. And she would watch my kids, and I would go to our counselor's office and I would sit and cry for a moment. And then I would come back and hop right back into it. And Ramona was willing to be the bearer of the bad news and then support me in that moment of my freak out.
Right.
As she's going through all of the things that she's also going through in her own life.
Wow. Next level.
Yes, truly.
Wow.
Truly.
Wow. Yeah, you're special.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. We need you to stay for part 2
Yes,
so we
absolutely.
can go deeper. And we want to hear more about your experience, your heart, your passion for ISS.
Absolutely.
And kind of where you are now.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Peace, guys.
See you in a minute.